For those of you that watched my last video, you'll recall I made these two amazing looking black walnut floating nightstands. And they turned out great, but it really highlighted how much I need to make a headboard for this bed. So here's what I was thinking. I want to find the absolute perfect live edge slab of walnut and stick it right up there on the wall. Then, because sometimes we like to read in bed, I'll figure out how to inlay some reading lights into it. I really think the natural look of this slab will fit right in with how the nightstands turned out. So now I gotta go slab hunting. And for that, I took a trip over to a place called Walton Woodworks here in West Michigan. The owner, Craig, has an amazing amount of kiln-dried, flattened slabs available that you can sort through to find just the one that you're looking for. All sorts of different species and cuts. I could spend hours in here just perusing. But after digging through all of them to the very back, my wife and I finally spotted the one that we were looking for. Or do we like this one? Of course it's the one all the way in the back, but man, that's really pretty too. Yeah, I think we're gonna go with this one. Next was just getting it paid for, loaded up, and strapped down into the truck. Then I just made sure to leave all my tie-downs flapping in the breeze so that anyone who followed me too close would be paranoid that they might catch a walnut slab on their windshield. Now that my wife took off, I had to figure out how to get this monstrosity out of the truck and down into the shop. Approximately one handful of ibuprofen and 2 hernias later, I managed to finally get this thing lugged down the stairs and dragged into the workshop. Now, the first order of business was to get it laid out flat on my bench top. From here, I could measure out exactly where it needed to get trimmed down to length. I just used my track saw as a straight edge, and I drew a line that I could then run my saw down and nip off the end pieces. I quickly realized, though, that my track saw couldn't reach all the way through the slab, so I had to finish out the cut with a pull saw. But there wasn't much material left to cut through, so it was super easy. And once I had the one side trimmed, I could measure off that edge to the other end of the slab, draw a parallel line, and then trim that one the same way. Afterwards, I used a flush trim saw and a sander to make the edges perfectly smooth. Now, there was one rather large crack along the bottom of the slab that was a little concerning. Now, since the slab was perfectly dry, I was certain that the crack would not be getting worse, but I still needed to stabilize it. First, I began by planing it down just a bit so that both sides of the crack were coplanar. And once I had it so that my ruler could slide across without catching, then I knew I had it good. Next, I designed 3 very elaborate and intricate bow ties and painstakingly cut them out by hand, which took days to complete. And after I was done and I had a chance to lay them out on the slab, I realized I really needed one more for it to look right. So the way I inlay these bow ties is pretty straightforward. I start by positioning it exactly where I want it, and then I go around the edges with a razor. Then, using a straight bit and a router, I can start to hog away as much material as I can from within the tracing. I keep lowering the bit and cutting out more and more material until I finally reach the full depth. Then at this point, I can grab some sharp chisels and just chop out the rest. Once I get it close, I do some test fits and then keep fine-tuning the mortise until I've got it perfect. Then I add a small chamfer to the bottom edge of the bow tie to help it go in easier, and then I can slather everything with glue and then send it home. Then using a hand plane, I can shave it down close to flush with the slab, and then I just hit it with the sander to make everything perfectly smooth. Then it's just Control-C and Control-V for the rest of the bow ties until I got them all installed. Next up was working on the live edges of the slab. Once I got things secured down, I put on the turbo plane onto my angle grinder, and I proceeded to get rid of any remaining bark remnants, as well as sort of shape the edges so that they're more rounded. I wanted to keep the sapwood as well as the natural contours of the slab as much as I could, but I wanted the edges to have a soft appearance. One issue that I discovered, though, was that while doing this, I uncovered lots of bug holes, and these all needed to get removed. So to do that, I switched from the turbo plane to a flap disc sander, and I started to smooth out the rough edges I have just made. This helped me uncover where those bug holes were, and then I could work on those spots until I had removed enough material to get under them, and then blend those areas back into the rest of the edge. I gotta say though, I don't think I have ever performed a messier task in my shop. Plus, my angle grinder is battery powered. So after I burned through all my batteries, I literally found myself just standing in the shop waiting for them to charge back up so I could continue on. But at that point, I could go around the whole thing with the random orbital sander and get the entire slab and its new edges perfectly smooth. Next, I needed to measure exactly where it was going to be mounted on the wall, as well as the exact locations for the reading lights. And as much as I know you'd like to watch me injure myself carrying this behemoth up and down the stairs some more, I figured I could probably just make a big template of it using some butcher paper. I taped down a big piece of paper onto it, and then I just went around the edge with a razor. Then I rolled it back up, and I took it upstairs and asked my wife to give me a hand. And after adjusting it several times, we finally found the right spot where it was at the right height and perfectly centered between the nightstands.
Well, that looks pretty good.
I like that a lot better.
I don't even need the slab. We could just go with this.
No. With the blue tape.
With the blue tape.
And then I marked where the reading lights would go.
So, do that again. Like, what would be comfortable to adjust? Right there?
Right there.
I think that's good. So we'll just put a reading light right about there.
And for those reading lights, I wanted some low-profile LED lights that would be easy to inlay, and I stumbled across this one on Amazon. These things turned out to be perfect, and I'll have a link to them in the video description if you wanted to check them out closer. I placed them onto the template, and I traced the box with a razor to transfer the location down onto the slab as well. Then at this point, I could remove the paper template and then drill a hole through each of the box locations. Then with a jigsaw and a rather dull blade, I managed to hack and burn my way through the slab and remove the material for the light box to be inserted into. Now it's time for me to make the French cleat that this thing will hang from. I start by using this little gadget, which I hardly ever use, but it looks cool on camera, and I cut down a piece of white oak. Now for the one that goes on the back of the slab, I drilled and countersunk several mounting holes and then glued and fastened it down into place. And since the cleat isn't inset, this means I also have to fasten on some standoffs towards the bottom edge of the slab. Then for the cleat that goes onto the wall of the bedroom, I use this stupid beeping contraption to misidentify stud locations and proceed to drive screws into nothing but drywall for 30 minutes until I finally manage to get lucky and find one and then measure out and find the rest by hand. And since the reading lights need to be plugged in, I didn't want to see any wires hanging down from behind the headboard, so I decided to hide them all behind the wall. Once I had the holes cut, I could fish a coat hanger down from the top opening, and tape on the wire, and then pull it all the way up. Next, these boxes got fastened into place, and then the brush plates go on next. And lastly, the cover plates go on to finish them out. And for some reason, I felt inclined to zoom in on this clip and give you a good shot of the screw. Well, we're almost done. The next thing to do is to put some finish on the slab. And for that, I'll be using the stung oil from Bumble Shoots. It's really thick. It's got like the consistency of honey. So I thin it down a bit using the solvent, and it makes it easier to apply, and it allows it to penetrate deeper into the wood. It's a super easy finish to use, too. I just sponge it on until it's not soaking in anymore, and then I wipe off the excess. And after a couple days, it starts to harden up, and it offers good protection while really bringing out the rich, dark tones of the wood. I've used this on quite a few pieces of furniture now, and I've been pretty pleased with the results. If you guys want to try this finish or any of the other products that are over at bumbleshoots.com, then use Fisher10 to save yourself some money at checkout. Now that the finish is cured, I can mount the light boxes into their holes. I borrowed my neighbor's extension cord and I cut it in a couple places so that I could add a lead onto each of the light boxes. Then I just fished it through the hole and I secured each light into its box with an Allen screw. Next, from behind the slab, I could wire both of the lights together. Then I used the other section of cord to connect them to a plug that could reach an outlet. And then boom, I was done with the wiring, and this thing could be lifted up and put on the wall. And what's nice about it being mounted on a French cleat is that once you have it hanging in place, it can be adjusted back and forth super easily if your wife is insisting that it's not exactly centered. You can just keep sliding it along the cleat until she finally says it's good enough and she's happy. Lastly, we could heave the bed back in place, throw on the pillows, and then this thing is done. Just check this thing out. I love how those bow ties turned out. And the crazy contours of the live edge are awesome. But what's really stunning are all the colors and the curls throughout the whole slab. It's just filled with all kinds of character. This thing really turned out amazing looking, and it was exactly what I was picturing in my head. I really think we found the perfect slab. Plus, those reading lights have been super handy. They've been so convenient and easy to use while I sit in bed reading some of my profound philosophical literature. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Take it easy, and we'll see you next time. See ya.
Oh, crap. Oh, I'm not getting all the way through. Crapskis. I need to lower this down a little bit more. There is no lower. It's all the way down. Well, crap. I'm gonna have to finish it out by hand. Alright. Oh. Guess I hit a little too hard.
Wait, I got a question.
What's your question? Oh my gosh, all of that, and I didn't even record anything? Oh my gosh. Alright, well, we'll do it again.
First.
Oh, where's the tip of the...
It's down here.
Where? I needed it. I can't drill anything without it.
I can't reach it.
You can't? I got the wood. Go ahead and get it.
I got it.
Alright, put it in there.
It's magnetic. No.
Oh, crap.
Oh, crap.
All right.
Got it.
Alright, ready?
There's an outtake.